Welcome, sleepy traveler. You've arrived at a quiet space made just for you. My name is Valarie, and I am here to guide you gently into rest, to help ease your mind, soften your body, and drift you toward a peaceful, uninterrupted sleep. Whether your day was long or your thoughts feel a little too loud tonight, let this be your permission to slow down, to breathe, and to simply be. There's nothing more to do now. Just allow my voice to be your guide as we begin this gentle journey toward deep, nourishing rest. If you're new here, subscribe for sleep content like this, and like this video if you find it enjoyable. Let's begin. Find a soft, comfortable position and gently allow your eyes to close. Let the day begin to drift away, like waves slipping back into the sea. You've arrived at this quiet moment, a gentle pause made just for you. There is nothing you need to do right now. No more tasks, no more to-dos, just the slow unfolding of rest. Let's start with the breath. Inhale softly through your nose, filling up your belly like a balloon. Hold it for just a moment. And then exhale slowly through your mouth, letting everything go. Breathe in calm. Breathe out tension. Feel the rhythm begin to slow. Each breath softer than the last. You're safe now, completely held in this space. There's no place you need to be. No pressure to feel a certain way. Just your breath and this moment. Let your body soften. Notice your shoulders gently letting go. Let them drop just a little lower. Soften your jaw. Release the tension behind your eyes. Feel your hands grow heavier, as if the day is melting out through your fingertips. Your whole body is beginning to understand. It's time to rest. Time to return to stillness. To let yourself be wrapped in peace. If thoughts arise, that's okay. They're like soft clouds in the sky of your mind. Drifting, floating, moving on. You don't have to chase them. Just notice them and come back to your breath. This breath, right here, is your anchor. Inhale. Exhale. Let it guide you deeper into stillness. The bed beneath you is warm and safe. Feel how it supports your body completely. Like a gentle cloud that knows just how to hold you. Allow yourself to sink a little more with each exhale. Let your legs grow heavy, your back relax into the mattress. You are allowed to let go. To release the weight of everything you've been carrying. This is your time now. A sacred pause between all the doing terrain where you simply are. Breathe here for a while. Softly, gently, without any rush. Imagine a soft light around you. Like moonlight, warm and comforting. It wraps around your body, your heart, your thoughts. This light is here to keep you safe tonight. To remind you that you are not alone. As you lie here, feel the quietness grow. It expands like ripples in a still pond. One breath at a time. You're sinking deeper into calm. Deeper into the softness of night. Notice your breath again, how it's become slower now. More spacious, more quiet. You are doing beautifully. There is no wrong way to rest. Even if your mind still chatters, you are already on your way to sleep. Feel the breath move like a gentle breeze. It flows in through your nose and out through your mouth. With every exhale, release one tiny thread of the day. Let go of worries. Let go of planning. Let go of the need to be anywhere else. You are exactly where you are meant to be. Let the calm fill your chest. Settle in your stomach. Gently warm your fingertips. It's okay if sleep hasn't come yet. Your body is still finding its rhythm, still finding its way home. Trust it. Trust this quiet unfolding. Like a flower that only blooms in moonlight. Let yourself bloom into rest. Feel the heaviness begin to pull you deeper. Like soft sand beneath your feet, drawing you downward. You're floating now. Not quite awake, not quite dreaming. This is the space where sleep lives. It welcomes you with open arms. There is no hurry. No finish line. Only this gentle drifting. You might begin to feel your thoughts dissolve. Like stars fading into a velvet sky. Each one letting go, making room for dreaming. Your body feels safe. Your breath feels natural. You are wrapped in peace, surrounded by stillness. Let this stillness hold you. Let it rock you gently into sleep. You've done all you need to do. Now your only job is to rest. Let yourself drift. Drift like a leaf on a quiet stream. The current is soft. It carries you nowhere and everywhere. You are safe in its arms. As your breath continues its gentle rhythm, imagine a warm glow in your chest. A soft golden light that pulses gently with each breath. This is your inner calm, a quiet place within you that never fades. Let that glow expand. Spreading warmth through your ribs, your spine, your arms, all the way down to your toes. You are glowing with rest. You are radiant with peace. Feel yourself being held by the bed, the breath, the quiet night. The world is slowed just for you. You are being guided gently into sleep. There's nothing more you need to do now. Everything has been taken care of. Everything is just as it should be. Let your breath be your lullaby. Let the night sing you softly into dreams. You may begin to feel that subtle shift. That moment where the body lets go completely. Where awareness fades and dreaming begins. You are on the threshold now. And all you need to do is allow it. Let the story take over. Let the words carry you. Let the hush wrap around you like velvet. And most of all, enjoy tonight's bedtime story. I am Cloverleaf, a hedgehog with a careful nose, steady paws, and a heart that believes in the small, quiet magic of growing things. My garden rests in a clearing the forest seems to have kept just for me, an open circle where sunlight lingers longer than in the deep woods, where the air carries a calm sweetness even before I bend to smell the herbs. The garden is not large, but it is enough. I keep it shaped like a patchwork quilt, little squares of green and silver and violet. Chamomile first, soft-petaled and golden-eyed, nodding in the breeze as if they are already drowsy. Mint grows in the next square, sharp and lively, eager to spread if I don't remind it gently to stay in its bed. Lavender stands in neat rows, spires of purple bees can't resist, their hum filling the mornings with music. Lemon balm, catnip, thyme, and a shy corner of valerian root each have their places, carefully chosen. My paws are small, but they are good at work. Each morning I carry water in an acorn cup bucket. dipping from the stream nearby, and sprinkle it over the beds until the soil darkens with contentment. I weed gently, humming to myself as I ease stubborn shoots from the ground. When I prune the lavender, its scent clings to my quills, so I carry it with me for hours afterward. It is quiet work, and I love it. The forest does not ignore me, though. Word of herbs travels differently than word of gossip. It moves with the breeze, slips along the fur of passing animals, and lingers in paw prints. Soon after I began tending this clearing, visitors arrived, not in flocks or herds, but one by one, curious noses twitching. A rabbit once paused on her way to the meadow, her whiskers quivering at the smell of chamomile. She sat beside me for a while, ears slowly lowering as the scent made her eyelids heavy. Then she hopped away, leaving me with the impression she had found some dream waiting for her. A pair of field mice discovered the mint patch. They squeaked in delight, rubbing their tiny paws on the leaves, carrying sprigs home as though they had stumbled on treasure. I waved them on, happy to see the herbs spread through more than my own beds. The bees, of course, are my most constant companions. They love the lavender most, but they hum through every patch, respectful and busy. I always tell them, take what you need. There will be more. They never doubt me. Even the old owl once drifted down at dusk, perching on a branch over my clearing. It smells like peace here, he rumbled, and then flew off again without another word. I like their visits, but they never stay long. And though I smile and wave as they leave, a little part of me wonders what it would be like if one day they lingered, sat down at my table, tasted the tea I dream of brewing. Yes, I dream of tea. Not just the kind you drink for warmth on a cold day, though of course mine would do that too. I dream of teas that carry a hush into the heart, that smooth a ruffled mind like a paw smoothing a crumpled page. Teas that taste of safety, or memory, or soft laughter. Teas that remind you the world is still kind, even when it has been difficult. I imagine setting out little cups carved from walnut shells, a pot steaming gently with chamomile and lemon balm, or mint stirred with a splash of honey. I imagine friends gathered on the moss around me, their eyes softening as they sip, their voices falling into gentle conversation. But I have not invited them yet. It isn't that I am shy. Hedgehogs are quiet by nature, yes, but not fearful. I simply don't know if anyone else would want to sit in my clearing and share the calm I find here. The rabbit seemed content enough to hop away after breathing the chamomile. The mice were delighted to take mint home. The owl liked the smell, but never asked for more. Perhaps the forest only wants the garden to be passed through, a place for rest, but not for gathering. Still, when I water the lavender in the mornings and watch the dew scatter into rainbow flecks, I can't help but think of how it might look if the light caught steam rising from a pot of tea instead. When I prune the mint and pile it neatly, I imagine setting it in a basket and offering it to a friend across the table. My imagination feels as full as my herb beds, waiting to be harvested, Today, as I sit on the little bench I built from 2 flat stones and a plank of fallen oak, I can feel the dream tugging at me again. The garden hums with fragrance, chamomile mellowing the air, mint sharpening it, lavender threading it with sweetness. The breeze carries it outward, and I watch as a squirrel pauses on a nearby branch, sniffing. He tilts his head at me as if to ask, "What is all this for, Cloverleaf?" I smile faintly. "For tea," I answer aloud, though no one ever asks to drink it. My paws rest in my lap. The sunlight dappled through the leaves feels like a blessing. The garden thrives, the forest notices, and still, I wait. Maybe one day I will gather enough courage to set a kettle on the flat stone hearth at the edge of the clearing. Maybe one day I will brew a pot and call softly into the woods, "Come in, friends, and share this with me." For now, though, I tend. I water, I prune, I smell the herbs and imagine the cups waiting. The garden listens to my dreaming, its leaves rustling like applause. I am Cloverleaf, keeper of the tea garden, and though no one stays yet, the clearing feels full of possibilities, as though the herbs themselves are whispering, "Soon, soon." And when that day comes, I'll be ready, with walnut shell cups, steaming pots, and enough warmth for everyone who wanders by. The afternoon light fell soft and golden through the branches, as though the forest itself was taking a slow breath. I had just finished trimming the mint bed, clipping stems carefully, thanking each one for its sharp, cool scent, when I heard the faint rustle of paws in the underbrush. I looked up, quills still dusted with the scent of green. A rabbit stepped into the clearing, her ears drooping low and her paws muddied from long wandering. Her fur was the color of wheat in late summer, and her eyes, half-lidded with weariness, flicked toward me with surprise. "Oh," she breathed, her whiskers twitching at the garden's fragrance. "I didn't know anyone lived here." "I do," I said, setting my shears down. My voice came out steady, though my heart beat quick with curiosity. "I'm Cloverleaf, this is my garden." The rabbit sagged onto the moss at the edge of the clearing, as though her legs had carried her farther than she had intended. "I'm Thistle," she murmured, "and I've been gathering clover all day. My paws feel heavy as stones, and my back—" She gave a long, tired sigh. "The sun is kind, but it drains me too." I hesitated only a moment. Then, before my shyness could overrule me, I said, "Would you like a cup of tea?" Her ears lifted slightly. "Tea?" "Yes," I nodded. "A blend of my herbs. It might help you rest." She blinked at me, perhaps surprised that a hedgehog kept a tea garden in the middle of the forest, but she gave a small, hopeful smile. "That sounds wonderful." I scurried to my small oak plank bench where I kept my supplies. My paws trembled as I filled my little kettle, an acorn cap shaped into a vessel, with fresh water from my stream jug. I set it over the flat stone hearth where the morning sun had left warmth, and tucked some dried twigs beneath. A quick strike of flint against stone, and soon a tiny flame licked up, curling smoke into the air. As the water began to steam, I carefully chose the herbs. Chamomile for calm, soft golden blossoms I'd picked just that morning, mint for refreshment to lift her weary spirit. I plucked a sprig from the bed, its leaves cool even against my paw, and crumbled it gently. The kettle soon whistled in its small, high voice. I poured the hot water into a walnut shell cup, dropping in the herbs and stirring with a twig. The fragrance rose immediately, a mingling of sweet and sharp, soothing as it touched my nose. I carried it over to Thistle. "Here," I said softly, placing the cup in her paws. "Sip slowly." She lifted it to her nose first, inhaling deeply. Her eyes fluttered closed. "Oh, that's lovely," she whispered. Then she took a careful sip. I watched. My quills tingled with nerves. What if it wasn't right? What if she didn't like it? But as she drank, her shoulders eased down, her ears slowly lifted, and the corners of her mouth curved into a faint smile. She leaned back into the moss and let out a long, trembling sigh. "This," she said, "is a small miracle." Warmth spread through me that had nothing to do with the sun. "I'm glad," I murmured. She finished the tea in slow sips, cradling the walnut shell as though it contained something precious. When it was empty, she held it close a moment longer, then gave it back to me with both paws. "Thank you, Cloverleaf," she said. "You've made this tired rabbit feel alive again." Her words glowed brighter than the sunlight. I took the cup back carefully, my paws steady now. Thistle lingered a little while longer, speaking of the meadow where she lived, of the endless clover she gathered each day for her warren. I listened, nodding, occasionally offering a sprig of mint or lavender for her to smell. Her eyes softened, her breath slowed. At last she stood, refreshed. "I must go," she said, "but I'll not forget this kindness. If ever you need clover or company, seek me out." I walked her to the edge of the clearing. "The garden is always open," I told her, though I wasn't sure until then if I had meant it. She smiled once more and then bounded away into the brush, her paws lighter than when she had come. That night, I sat by the lavender bed, the air heavy with fragrance. My paws still tingled from handing her that first cup of tea. I thought of her sigh, the way she had called it a miracle. My heart beat with a new rhythm. I had finally shared the garden, not just its scents, but its comfort, its purpose. It was only one cup, only one rabbit. But I felt as though the clearing itself had shifted, brighter, fuller, more alive. And in the quiet between the rustling leaves, I could almost hear the forest whispering the news outward. In the days that followed, I noticed small changes. A squirrel paused at the edge of the clearing, sniffing with more interest than before. A badger passed by one evening and gave me a nod, as though he knew something new about me. Birds sang differently as they perched near the lavender, their songs carrying curiosity. And then one morning, I discovered a sprig of clover left neatly by the edge of the moss bench. No paw prints told me who had placed it, but I knew. Thistle had returned quietly, leaving me a gift, a thank you. I pressed the clover to my chest, smiling. Word was spreading, not loudly, not in shouts, but in the way seeds drift on the breeze, settling where they are meant to. The forest knew now. Cloverleaf the hedgehog brewed teas in her garden, teas that healed even just a little. And though I still worked quietly each morning, watering, weeding, trimming, I did so with a new warmth in my heart, because I knew it wouldn't be long before another guest wandered into my clearing, paws weary, eyes curious. And when they did, I would be ready, with walnut shell cups, steaming herbs, and the steady kindness of a hedgehog who had finally discovered what her garden was truly for. The clearing feels different these days, not because the sunlight has changed, though it does seem to linger longer in the afternoons, but because the air itself seems to carry a quiet hum of expectation. My garden no longer belongs only to me. It has begun to breathe with the voices of others. It started with the mouse. One morning I noticed the faintest rustling near the chamomile bed. At first I thought it was the breeze, but then a small trembling nose appeared, followed by two twitching whiskers and the softest gray fur. The mouse stepped timidly into the open, her tail curling nervously behind her. "Hello," she squeaked, her voice barely stronger than the hum of bees over the lavender. I heard you might have tea here." Her eyes were round and uncertain, and I could tell she was one who often worried, perhaps about hawks overhead or shadows in the grass, or simply whether her paws were carrying her in the right direction. "Yes," I said, my paws steady, though my heart warmed at her trust. "You've come to the right place. Sit by the moss and I'll brew you something gentle." For her, I chose chamomile and lemon balm, a cup of calm. As the walnut shell steamed in her paws, her whiskers stopped trembling. She sipped, and a small sigh left her chest, soft as the petals around her. "This feels like safety," she whispered. I smiled. "Then drink all you need." She stayed longer than she planned, I think, talking a little of her burrow, of the long nights she spent listening for sounds. By the time she left, her steps were slower, but her shoulders seemed lighter. And I thought, perhaps the garden is becoming something larger than me. The fox came next, on an afternoon when the sky was heavy with clouds, but the rain had not yet fallen. His paws were quiet, but his eyes were not, flickering with storms I could not name. He sat at the edge of the clearing, not daring to come close at first, for foxes are used to suspicion. "Would you like tea?" I asked, keeping my voice calm, neither fearful nor overly warm. He tilted his head, amber eyes narrowing. "Do you trust me enough for that?" "Yes," I said simply. "You look like you need a place to rest." He blinked and then padded closer, his tail brushing the ground behind him. When he settled into the moss, he seemed smaller than I expected, not in size, but in weariness. For him, I brewed lavender and thyme, with a touch of mint to cool the restless heat in his gaze. When I placed the cup before him, his nose twitched once, then again. Slowly he drank. His shoulders lowered, his tail curled closer. This quiets the growl inside me, he admitted softly. We sat without many words after that. The rain came gently, pattering on leaves, but beneath the canopy my garden felt like a lantern glowing. The fox stayed until the storm passed, then rose, eyes calmer. "You're different, Cloverleaf," he said before slipping back into the trees. "I think I'll come again." I watched him go, my paws pressed against the earth, grounding myself in the garden's steady heartbeat. The squirrels came bounding in on a wet, chilly evening, their fur slicked dark with rain. They chattered to each other, shivering, hardly noticing me until they collapsed under the oak bench. "Oh, you poor things," I murmured. "You need warmth more than anything." I set water to boil quickly, choosing mint and valerian root for deep rest, with just a hint of lavender to comfort. When I placed 2 cups into their small paws, steam curling up like a blanket, they fell silent for the first time. The first squirrel sighed and leaned against his companion. The second licked his lips and said, "It feels like a fire inside, but gentle, not burning." They drank until their paws stopped shaking. Then they began to chatter again, but this time about small, light things, the shape of clouds, the trick of hiding acorns too well. Their laughter rose like sparrows, lifting the clearing. I sat with them, chuckling softly, realizing how sweet it felt to hear voices here, not just mine. And so it went. One by one the forest animals came, some timid, some bold, some weary, some lonely, and for each I listened. That, I realized, was the true work, not just in choosing the herbs or brewing the tea, but in hearing the weight in their voices, seeing the droop of their ears or the quickness of their tails, and knowing what comfort they sought. For the owl who visited late one night, I brewed valerian and chamomile so his old wings might rest. For a badger with sore shoulders, I chose thyme and mint, herbs to loosen knots of weariness. For a sparrow, wings trembling from long flight, I brewed lemon balm and lavender, light enough to float on. Each left with softer eyes, slower steps, lighter hearts. And my clearing, once so quiet I could hear my own breath, now hummed with something richer. The clink of walnut cups against stone, the rise and fall of voices, sometimes murmurs, sometimes laughter, the gentle rustle of quills as I carried trays of steaming tea. It was no longer only my place, it had become our place. One evening, as the sun set in pink and violet, I sat back on my bench while the garden buzzed with conversation. The mouse was telling the squirrels a story about a hawk that had once chased her. But I slipped right into a burrow, and he nearly bonked his head. The squirrels squeaked with laughter. The fox listened nearby, eyes warm, not sharp, his tail twitching at the punch line. Even the bees seemed to hover more slowly, as if lingering to hear. I sipped my own cup of chamomile and mint, the steam curling up into my face and let the sound wash over me. I thought back to the first day when I tended these herbs alone, dreaming only quietly of sharing them. How afraid I had been to ask anyone to stay, how still the clearing had felt, even in its beauty. Now the clearing pulsed with life, with friends, with the kind of togetherness I had once only imagined. I realized then this was never meant to be just a private retreat. The garden had always wanted to be more, a gathering place, a hearth in the forest where paws and wings and whiskers might meet in gentleness. And I had become its steward, not only of herbs, but of hearts. I looked at the faces around me, glowing in the last light of dusk, and whispered to myself, yes, this is what it was always meant to be. The garden rustled in agreement, and for the first time I felt not only proud of the tea I brewed, but deeply, fully at home. The storm began with whispers, low rumbles far beyond the trees, so faint that the chamomile blossoms barely stirred. I remember glancing up from my weeding, paws still buried in the mint bed, and thinking, the sky sounds restless tonight. By the time the sun sank, those whispers had turned into growls. The wind pushed through the forest with quick, uneven breaths, bending branches and scattering pine needles. Leaves swirled in the clearing, chasing each other like nervous mice. Then the first crack of thunder split the evening, so sharp that even my quills bristled. I had known storms before, of course. Every creature of the forest has. But this one felt heavy, urgent, like a kettle left on too long, whistling its warning. So I moved quickly. I fetched the lanterns I kept tucked under the oak bench, small things, fashioned from hollowed gourds with thin panes of mica to protect the flames. One by one I lit them, their warm glow pushing back the shadows. I hung them on branches around the clearing until the tea garden looked like a little island of stars nestled beneath the storm-dark sky. The rain arrived then, hard and sudden, hammering the leaves, drumming on the soil until puddles formed in the paths between herb beds. Lightning flashed, bleaching the lavender silver white. Thunder rolled, shaking the earth until my paws tingled. I could already hear the scurrying. The first to appear was the mouse. She darted into the clearing, fur plastered flat, tail dripping, whiskers trembling. "Cloverleaf," she squeaked, half in panic. "The wind ripped the grasses above my burrow. I thought the whole hill would tumble." "Come in," I said gently, guiding her beneath the shelter of my oak bench. I set a dry moss cushion there, and she burrowed into it with a shaky sigh. Then came Thistle the rabbit, ears slicked down, eyes wide. "I couldn't find shelter," she gasped. "The meadow is all water." "Here," I said, offering her a place near the lantern. "You're safe now." Not long after, the fox padded in, his proud tail drooping, soaked to the bone. He gave me a look that was half a plea and half an apology. "You needn't ask," I told him. "This night belongs to all of us." One by one they arrived. The squirrels, shivering and dripping, chattering nervously about branches snapping above. The badger, grumbling as he shook water from his coat, though his eyes softened when he saw the light. Even a pair of sparrows fluttered into the clearing, their wings heavy, perching on the lavender stalks that bowed low under the storm's weight. The clearing filled quickly, not with fear, but with the beginnings of comfort. "I'll make tea," I said, and my paws moved before the words finished. I pulled out my largest kettle, one made from a polished stone bowl with a copper rim. I filled it with water from my stream jug and set it over the fire pit's stone hearth, fanning the flames until they licked high. Soon steam curled upward, carrying with it a promise. From my baskets I gathered lavender, handful after handful, their scent rising sharp and sweet even against the storm. I mixed in chamomile for calm, mint for freshness, and just before the kettle began to sing, I added honey, thick and golden, dripping from the comb I'd traded with the bees earlier that week. The scent that bloomed was enough to hush even the thunder for a moment. I poured the tea into acorn cups, walnut shells, even a carved gourd bowl for the badger's big paws. Each animal took one, their eyes brightening in the lantern glow as steam curled around their faces. The mouse sipped first, her whiskers steadied, her shoulders loosening as she exhaled. "It's like sunshine in a storm," she murmured. Thistle followed, her ears finally lifting. "Oh, Cloverleaf," she sighed, "you've made the night kind again." The fox closed his eyes with his first swallow, his tail wrapping around him as though the warmth had traveled straight from his tongue to his paws. "The growl inside me has quieted," he admitted softly. "And the squirrels?" They chattered with delight, their laughter carrying louder than the thunder. Even the sparrows dipped their beaks into a shallow cup, fluffing their damp feathers as the warmth spread. The storm raged on, but here in the clearing we had made another world. The lanterns glowed like tiny suns, casting golden halos on the rain-slick leaves. The steam from the kettle wove together with the smoke of the fire, curling through the clearing in ribbons. The animals huddled close, shoulders brushing, tails twining, wings folded against fur. The sound of the storm faded behind the murmur of voices. Soft conversation, shared stories, even bursts of laughter. The badger recounted how the wind had stolen his hat straight from his head, sending it tumbling into a stream. The squirrels argued playfully over which tree groaned the loudest in the storm. Thistle confessed that she often feared thunder, but with the tea warming her, the noise no longer felt so sharp. I listened. I poured. I refilled cups. My paws never rested, but my heart swelled with every sip they took, every sigh that followed. The garden had never felt so alive. At one point the fox leaned closer to me. "Why do you do this, Cloverleaf? All this work, all this care for us?" I paused, ladling more tea into his cup. The question was simple, but my answer felt larger than myself. "Because the garden doesn't grow only for me. I said. Herbs heal when they're shared, and because nights like this remind me how much we need each other. He regarded me quietly, then nodded once, deeply, before curling back into the warmth. The hours passed. The storm did not relent quickly. It rattled branches, snapped twigs, sent water streaming through the paths. But in the clearing, time softened. The kettle emptied and was refilled. Again and again, the tea stretching as far as it needed to. Some animals dozed. The mouse curled against Thistle's side, cup resting empty beside her. The sparrows tucked their heads beneath their wings, perched on the edge of my bench. The squirrels leaned against each other, eyes drooping even as they muttered. And always the lanterns glowed, painting our little gathering in steady gold. At last, the thunder began to soften, the rain falling lighter, the wind weary from its roaring. Dawn edged the clouds with silver, promising the storm's end. The animals stirred, stretching, yawning. Their eyes carried no trace of the fear that had driven them here. Only warmth, only gratitude. "Thank you, Cloverleaf," Thistle said, her paw resting over mine. "This garden, it's more than a clearing now. It's a home when we need one." I blinked at her words, my chest swelling. Perhaps she was right. Perhaps my little garden had grown into something greater, not just a patch of herbs, but a hearth in the forest, a safe place against storms. One by one they departed, their paws lighter, their shoulders easier. The fox was last to leave, pausing at the clearing's edge. He glanced back, eyes glinting. "You gave us more than tea tonight," he said. "You gave us peace." When they were gone, the clearing was quiet again. Only the soft drip of water from leaves, the faint glow of the last lantern. I stood in the center of the garden, the herb beds damp but unharmed, the air still sweet with lavender and honey. My paws ached, but my spirit glowed brighter than the lanterns. I realized then, storms will always come. But here in my clearing we could face them together. And that thought, steady and sure, was enough to carry me into the new day, the quills along my back tingling not from fear, but from joy. I am Cloverleaf, the hedgehog who tends a tea garden, and on stormy nights when the world shakes, I will light lanterns, brew tea, and hold the forest close until it feels safe again. Because sometimes what the world needs most is a cup of warmth, a circle of light, and a reminder that no one has to weather the storm alone. The morning after the storm, the forest looked as though it had taken a long, shuddering breath and finally released it. The rain was gone, leaving the leaves scrubbed clean, their green so bright it made my eyes ache happily. Drops still clung to the lavender like beads of glass trembling at the ends of each stalk. The air was heavy with the scent of wet earth and herbs, as though the garden itself had steeped overnight in a great pot of rainwater. I padded slowly through the clearing, my paws damp, my quills still smelling faintly of smoke from last night's lanterns. The garden had survived, bent here and there, yes, and the mint had sprawled further than I would have liked, but everything was still alive. I bent low, whispering thanks to each bed for its resilience. But I was not alone for long. By mid-morning, Thistle the rabbit appeared, her ears perked, eyes bright. Behind her came the fox, padding with a quiet dignity, though his fur still clumped from the rain. The squirrels bounded in next, shaking droplets from their tails, and the mouse scampered last, looking around with her usual mixture of nervousness and awe. Even the badger came lumbering down the path, his paws carrying the sound of steady thunder, though he smiled faintly when he saw me. I tilted my head, surprised. "What brings you all here so soon after the storm?" They exchanged glances, and then Thistle hopped forward, her whiskers twitching. "We've been talking," she said. "Last night, you gave us shelter. You gave us tea, warmth, light. You made us feel safe when the forest shook. We realized something." "What's that?" I asked softly, though I could feel my heart already lifting. "That this garden isn't only yours," she said. "It belongs to all of us now, and we want to help." Her words struck me deeper than any thunder. I opened my mouth, but no answer came at first. I had always thought of the garden as mine. My paws planted it. My quills brushed the soil. My back carried the water. But hadn't it been theirs, too, in every way that mattered? Their laughter had filled it. Their stories had lingered here. Their fears had quieted in its glow. The garden had been growing into a shared place all along. I swallowed, my throat warm. "If you truly wish to help," I said, "then I would be honored." The fox was first. He slipped away and returned before noon, dragging smooth river stones in his jaws, collected from the stream beyond the meadow. His amber eyes glinted as he dropped them at my paws. "For paths," he said, "so the soil won't turn to mud when it rains." We worked side by side, laying the stones between the beds. My paws set them, his careful nose nudged them straight. Slowly the clearing transformed. Neat walkways of gray and silver winding like gentle rivers through the quilt of herbs. Next came the squirrels, bounding with energy as always. From their pouches they pulled tiny treasures, shells, feathers, and bits of metal that glimmered in the sun. With nimble paws they strung them together on grass stems and hung them from the branches circling the clearing. Soon the air chimed softly with every breeze, as though the garden itself had learned to sing. The mouse came forward timidly, her paws carrying small acorns she had filled with seeds. "I brought fennel," she said, her voice barely louder than the wind chimes, "and some lemon verbena. I thought maybe you'd like more variety." My eyes softened as I took the acorns from her, planting each seed with care while she watched, nibbling nervously on her tail tip. "They'll grow beautifully here," I assured her, and her whiskers twitched in a smile. Thistle was not to be outdone. She returned with a bundle of fresh shoots she had gathered from the meadow. "More chamomile," she said proudly, setting them near my existing bed. "You'll need it. Everyone asks for chamomile." Together, we planted the new shoots, our paws sinking into the damp soil side by side. And the badger? He brought strength. He rolled a great fallen log from the edge of the forest, grunting with effort, until it rested near the bench. For extra seating, he explained simply. If we're to gather here often, we'll need more places to sit. By evening, the clearing had transformed again. Not only mine, not only tended by my paws, but shaped by all of us. The stones curved neatly between the herb beds. The new chamomile settled into its corner, already nodding in the soft twilight. The seeds rested in their acorn cups, ready to sprout. And above, the wind chimes tinkled softly, their music mingling with the bees' last hum of the day. I stood in the center, my paws pressed into the earth, and felt the weight of it. Not burden, but belonging. As twilight deepened, I brewed tea. Not in small cups this time, but in my largest kettle, filled with lavender, chamomile, and a touch of mint. Honey dripped in golden streams, and the scent rose like a promise through the clearing. I poured for each of them, Thistle with her tired but happy eyes, the fox with his quiet dignity, the squirrels with their endless chatter, the mouse with her careful paws, the badger with his steady strength. Even the sparrows fluttered down, wings gleaming in the fading light, and dipped their beaks into shallow shells I filled for them. We sat together, on the log, the bench, the moss, the stones. The lanterns flickered on again, casting warm halos that shimmered off the river stone paths. The wind chimes rang gently, weaving music through the air, and as we drank, conversation blossomed. The fox told a story of the river's edge, where he'd seen his reflection so clear he thought another fox lived below. The squirrels argued about who could leap the farthest between branches, laughing so hard they nearly spilled their tea. Thistle spoke about the clover in the meadow, how it shimmered silver when moonlight touched it. The mouse whispered about the hawk that had once frightened her, and how in this clearing she no longer thought of him. I listened, my paws wrapped around my own cup, my quills glowing faintly in the lantern light. Every laugh, every word, every sigh of contentment folded itself into the clearing like another root, another stem, another blossom. The garden was alive, not just with herbs, but with friendship. I realized then what I had not been able to name before. The garden had always wanted to belong to all of us. I had only been its first keeper, not its only one. The sky deepened to violet, then indigo. Stars peeked through the leaves, shy at first, then brighter. The lanterns flickered, echoing their glow. I looked around at my friends, the fox with his tail curled neatly at his side, the rabbit with her ears drooping in peace, the squirrels snuggled together against the log, the mouse perched close to the warmth of the kettle, the sparrows preening their wings, the badger sipping slowly with a soft hum in his chest. They were not just visitors now. They were part of this place, as surely as the lavender, the mint, the chamomile. I lifted my cup. "To the garden," I said softly. They raised theirs, or wings, or paws, or tails in response. "To the garden!" they echoed. And in that moment, beneath the stars and the lantern light, I knew the truth as surely as the soil knew the roots beneath it. This garden was no longer a private retreat. It was a sanctuary, a home for peace, for tea, for friendship, a garden that belonged to all. As the night deepened, I curled into the moss at the edge of the clearing, my cup empty, but my heart impossibly full. The wind chimes sang softly overhead. The lanterns flickered low, and the voices of my friends faded into drowsy murmurs. I closed my eyes, letting the warmth of the tea linger in me, and thought, this is what I dreamed of, though I never dared believe it would come true. And with that, I let the sounds of laughter, chimes, and rustling herbs carry me into sleep, content at last. I am Cloverleaf, hedgehog and gardener, but I am no longer only a keeper of herbs. I am a keeper of friends, of peace, of light. And in the heart of the forest, in a little clearing strung with lanterns and chimes, our tea garden glows, alive with all who call it home. And that ends tonight's meditation. You're welcome to stay for a bit longer if you like. Have a beautiful night. Until next time.